I'm joined now by my friend Grover Norquist, head of Americans for Tax Reform. Good to see you, Grover.
Good to be with you.
Good. We want to talk a little bit, as we were just talking to Paul, about the Buffett rule, but we want to talk in a sort of broader way about taxation that tries to soak the rich. And you've written a very interesting article. It's going to be in the Journal tonight and online and tomorrow morning about just exactly who does get soaked by these efforts to raise taxes on the highest income earners. And you've got a great phrase for it. It's called trickle-down taxation. Tell us what trickle-down taxation is.
Well, it's something I noticed in the 50 states and in Washington, D.C., that politicians like to run for office promising to tax the other. And yet there's not much money in taxing a few people or a particular activity, because people stop doing that if you tax it too heavily. So that turns out to be the thin entering wedge of broader taxation. Politicians say, I'm only going to tax the rich, and then that tax cascades down to hit the middle class pretty quickly. The alternative minimum tax goes from 115 people being threatened or attacked to 4 million people paying it today, to 31 million people paying it in January. The personal income tax itself was supposed to be only people earning in today's dollars about $10 million a year. Yeah. Now it hit at least half of Americans. Each of these taxes, in Maine, the income tax was put in, only going to hit the rich. Now anybody who earns more than $19,000 a year gets hit with more than 8% tax. So the rates go up, but the who gets hit gets deeper and deeper. They define rich down, not defining deviancy down. They define rich down. Our friend President Clinton, when he was elected, he had a phrase very similar to Obama's, and that was, I'm only going to tax, he said, the top 2%. Obama says the top 1%. But within 6 months of his promise and getting elected to only tax the top 2%, he was proposing energy taxes on all Americans who use electricity or drive cars, and he had to settle for the tax on gasoline. Every American who drives a car pays that tax, when he started with a promise only to tax the rich.
Yeah, and I think you say that Barack Obama didn't waste any time at all. He was out of the chute within a couple of weeks.
16 days.
16 days.
First tax increase, tobacco smokers, tobacco users, average income about $40,000 a year. In point of fact, there's been a scientific study which found that the only American who smokes cigarettes and earns more than $250,000 is named Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm. You know, you probably remember as well as I do, Grover, the famous saying of the former head of the Senate Finance Committee, Russell Long, don't tax you, don't tax me, tax that guy behind the tree.
Yeah. And look, what politicians like to do, the reason progressive income taxes are popular is not just, this Karl Marx's proposed idea from 1848 about soaking the rich, but if you can divide people into different tax brackets, you can raise those different brackets at different times, and you're only taking on 5% or 20% of the electorate at one time rather than everybody. I'm originally from Massachusetts, where before emigrating to the United States, in Massachusetts they have a flat rate income tax by Constitution. You have to amend the Constitution to have a graduated or progressive income tax. 5 times the advocates of larger government have put on the ballot in Massachusetts, let's go to a grad tax, a progressive income tax. 5 times liberal, Democrat, blue, George McGovern, Ted Kennedy, Massachusetts has voted down going away from a flat tax towards a graduated income tax with a very sophisticated argument that you hear on talk radio and letters to the editor, and that is, oh yeah, year 1 they'll raise taxes on the Kennedys. Then they'll come for us, and the Kennedys will sit on their hands. We are safer if everybody pays the same rate.
And I think
politicians like to divide us up and get us one at a time.
And I think, as you pointed out, Grover, in the current debate in Washington, poll after poll, like Rasmussen, most people out there think that the tax man is indeed going to be coming after them eventually, no matter what they say.
What Obama and some of the Democrat voters have been saying is, oh wow, look, if you ask, would you like to raise taxes on millionaires, you can get a high number. of people saying yes. But the challenge is the second question: if they raise taxes on the rich year one, do you believe that eventually you'll be paying those same taxes? The answer is yes. 75% of the American people believed that if they'd raised taxes on the rich as part of a budget deal in 2011, that they were the ultimate targets.
Wow.
They could see through the promise of we're going to stop at taxing the rich and not hit the rest of you. Somehow they've been watching the AMT and the personal income tax and other taxes that have cascaded down to the middle and lower middle income citizens.